I'm excited to kick off today's event, the Career Change Guide, Breaking into a Career in Tech Sales, sponsored by Equinix. Now, Equinix connects the world's leading businesses to their customers, employees, and partners inside the most interconnected data centers. We are thrilled to be joined by three leaders at Equinix, Tiffany, Christina, and Katie, who have a lot of knowledge and advice to share on breaking into the booming world of tech sales. Fun fact, I got started in the world of tech sales, so I'm really interested in hearing what they have to say. You'll hear about the day-to-day, why they love their jobs, the skills you need, and how you can get started in this exciting and rewarding field. So I'd love to start, just by asking each of you to introduce yourselves. So whoever wants to get kicked off can just jump right on in.
I'm happy to start. I'm Katie Pareto. I'm the Senior Manager of Talent Acquisition, and I support the Customer and Revenue Organization, which encompasses sales. I've been with Equinix for about 12 years, and I have been very fortunate and privileged to work with both Tiffany and Christina.
Excellent. Great to hear from you.
Hi, everyone. I'll go now. Thanks for having me today. I'm really excited to talk to this audience about careers in technology sales. A little bit about me. I live in DC with my husband and two daughters. I studied English in college, and somehow that led me to a career in technology. Who knew? I'm basically a technology go-to-market careerist, and that's to say that I've had many roles supporting the entire customer journey, from sales and partner sales and marketing, solutions architecture, and now my role today, which is in the chief of staff role for the customer and revenue office at Equinix. In this chief of staff role, I wear a ton of hats, but I do spend a lot of time supporting our recruiting efforts from our intern programs all the way up to key leadership programs at Equinix. So happy to be here today.
Amazing, and we're happy to have you here.
I'm Tiffany Osias. My pronouns are she, her. And I am sprinting probably into my 28th year of my career. And across those 28 years, I graduated from college, and I've got a degree in business information systems. I met my wife. We have two kids, we have two dogs, and I've had all kinds of different roles over those 28 years, but the bulk of it has been adjacent to sales in one way or another, either leading technical sellers, leading direct sellers, leading partner sellers, and am now in the marketing organization. And something I know you're going to hear more about from all of us is having that sales foundation, or even that customer foundation, is so important to everything else I've ever done. Having the customer foundation has been important no matter what role I've ever been in. So I'm really excited to talk to you all about that today, and certainly to hear from you all in chat as well. And I feel so honored to be sitting alongside Katie and Christina. You'll find me taking as many notes as you are, because I learn from these people so frequently in my day job. I'm positive I'm going to be learning from them here today as well.
That is tremendous. Thank you so much, Tiffany. Actually, Tiffany, you kind of helped segue into the first topic, which is career journey, and kind of hearing about what roles have you been in. So I was hoping you could expand a little bit on what you just kind of shared with us, and also answer what initially attracted you to a career at Equinix.
Yeah, so, like I said, I'm sprinting into this 28-year career. So if I go back in my time machine, I started my career in tech when I was 19, and I was just finished my first year of college, and I needed a night job to make some extra dollars. And I started working for a tech company there in operations, so working with customers from an ops role, and I fell in love with my work, absolutely fell in love with it. So I quit school and I worked full time. And then about a year into that, I thought, you know what, this degree is going to be really helpful later. So I went back to school, got my degree at night. It took me forever, but I'm so glad I did it. And I worked during the day. And after 5 years in ops, I realized I could make a bigger impact if I moved into sales. So I moved into a solution architecture kind of role where we were consulting customers on how to design solutions and how to make the best use out of the tech stack that they'd already created. And I absolutely fell in love with that job very quickly, and did it for a super long time. And I'd had a hunch that if I'd moved into that kind of role, I'd be able to help customers better their business. And that hunch really paid off, because that's the most rewarding part of my career, is helping customers better their business. And I take that perspective into every role I've ever had since. And after 22 years at that same company that I started with when I was 19, through mergers and acquisitions, I thought, do I want this to be the only company I've ever worked for in my entire career? Or do I want to go out, and broaden my skill set? And that's how I ended up at Equinix 6 years ago. And what brought me here are people like Christina and Katie and the other 10,000 fabulous employees that we have, that are putting us at the center of every major technical trend. That's what attracted me to it. It's the people, and it's where we are as far as technology is concerned. And third is, I like to win. And at Equinix, we win. Like, we take a lot of market share, and we have a position of, certainly of financial strength, which I know you'll hear more about from the others. But, it's all of that journey is what brought me here.
Oh man, this is so good. Goosebumps already. I hope everybody else has them too. I love hearing the passion and your story, Tiffany. Phenomenal. Thank you. Christina, I'd love for you to chime in. I'm trying to follow that by letting us know, what roles have you been in and what initially attracted you to a career at Equinix?
Yeah, sure. I mean, as I've mentioned, I had worked for several technology companies in different technology go-to-market roles in my career, several of which were in sales or sales leadership. I actually sought out Equinix. I was running marketing for a top-tier Microsoft company before all things cloud took over the world. And as part of that partnership, we were able to leverage and kind of tool around with Microsoft Cloud Azure pre-launch. And I knew pretty quickly, given the enterprise customers that I was marketing to, that it was likely that these big clouds were going to eventually live in some capacity at Equinix. It took me a while, but I eventually landed in a segment marketing role here, and then moved into solutions architecture for a few years, and now I've been a chief of staff for a few years. Fast forward, and it's been almost 9 years. It feels like yesterday, but it's been amazing.
Time flies when you're having fun, huh? Christina, this also helps me to do a great segue here into, I'm wondering, how have you seen the world of technology transform throughout your career and your time at Equinix?
Yeah, well, first of all, I would say that one of the best parts of working in technology is that it is truly always cutting edge. You really cannot get bored. Things are always changing. And today I would say that, the line between customers and consumers is blurring. And make no mistake, users, all of us users, we're the ones in charge. And so companies really know that they need to deliver value to their buyers to gain their mind share across all of their journeys and more aligned with their behavior and their preferences. So, what I'm seeing, with our customers is that customer-centered digital innovation is driving all of these macro trends around data and speed, around remote work, in addition to the pandemic, around AI-driven experiences. You tell me what I want to watch, Netflix, make it easy, right? Everything is as a service, from entertainment to, your taxi, to trading stock, to checking your lab results. And so I would also add to that there's a desire for sustainable experiences and business models. And we see all of these trends fueling digital growth at Equinix and more.
And then this makes me want to segue over to Tiffany for a second. How have you seen the world of sales transform along with it?
Some things would stay the same, like, what our need to create services that deliver value to customers. That's the kind of stuff that stays the same. But boy, what's changed over time, one is access to information is now ubiquitous. So I think about, when I was first in sales those couple of decades ago, and I was selling to the same big tech companies we're selling to today, like Microsoft, is one, Oracle's another, Cisco's another. Back then, even though these were tech orgs, they didn't have access to information in the way that we do today, because this was way before companies were putting so much on the internet. people were able to search, or before podcasts. So getting podcasts and getting internet and having people be able to watch videos on anything nowadays is making for a much more educated buyer. So by the time a seller talks to a buyer, they have already done so much homework and research because of ubiquitous access to information. Another thing I think that's come with this, technology is the complexity of the solutions. There are so many choices now and a need for multiple tech stacks to be able to work together. If you go look at how many different technology products a CIO has to manage today, it's mind-numbing. And then how many more the organization has bought and signed up for that the CIO doesn't even know about, it's absolutely incredible. So customers now need a way to stitch all of these things together. They really need interoperability. Where before it might have been okay for you to only know about your own product, now executives are demanding that you know about the products that sit right before yours and after, because they really want it to work. So access to information, complexity of solutions, digitization of the purchasing experience. People want things at software speed. They want to be able to log in and buy. Even those big organizations I talked about have plenty of buyers that are purchasing online, so that digitization of the purchasing experience. And then the need for the ecosystem. I talked about that interoperability. But you think about every industry is true for this. Financial services, manufacturing, healthcare, they all have ecosystems that are important to them. And being able to connect in like a secure and fast way to those ecosystems is another massive change, I would say, that sellers now have to be thinking about, where they haven't had to even 5 years ago in some of these instances.
Sure, absolutely. Thank you for that just very thorough explanation. Thank you so much. So Christina, I think this is one that a lot of the audience is going to want to really pay attention to. What are the most rewarding aspects of being in tech sales at Equinix? What do you find most exciting and meaningful about your work?
Yeah, I would say, if you have a curious mind and you also enjoy a certain pace while seeing how it changes the world in real time, it's good and fun and an intellectually rewarding sector to have a career in. I would also say too that because so much is driven by user experiences, it's super critical to bring new and diverse voices to these major technology innovation sort of tables.
That makes perfect sense. So let's switch gears a little bit. We haven't heard much from Katie, so I want to get her involved as well. So for women looking to break into tech sales, what do you suggest they do when looking for these opportunities?
Absolutely. I think it's really important to learn about Equinix or the company that you're interested in. The company website, there's press releases on it. Know the awards that the company has won. Check out their social media. All companies tend to have a robust presence. We're on Fairygodboss, look there. LinkedIn, YouTube, we actually can go out and watch videos of our executives and our sales leaders speaking. We also have done like partner content. So Instagram, Facebook, all of the social media channels are huge. I touched on partners. Know who the company's partners are. Learn about like the space and the industry. Know who the competition is. I think it's really important to understand the company's challenges and their headwinds and have a point of view and present solutions for navigating or overcoming those obstacles. I think it's important to speak to ways that you can contribute and impact not only your success, but the success of the team and the company, which you'll have that point of view if you've done the research on the company and understand some of the challenges. I think networking and developing very strong relationships with employees and partners, or people that are well respected and known in the industry that can be your ally or your advocate and sponsor and endorse you. If you are just getting into sales, there's actually like certification programs. Like if you're trying to learn about sales, there's certification programs. Some of the major educational institutes have programs like University of San Diego, Kellogg, Cornell. So you could, you know, gain some information from that. And I think just understanding sales funnels and sales cycles is very beneficial.
I concur, absolutely. So Christina and Tiffany, and whoever wants to go first can. When you're recruiting and hiring for tech sales roles, what are some of the top qualities you look for? What do you believe are the most challenging aspects of breaking into tech sales?
Why don't you go first? You go first, Christina.
Okay. I would say really two things. For me, just I know Tiffany and I both sit on a lot of Katie's panels. And for me, for more experienced roles, I really do like to see experience in other hyper growth environments to really kind of get a feel for the experience gained from that level of change and transformation that comes with massive growth opportunities. It's not for everyone, and you really do have to have an agile mindset to be successful in tech. And so you don't necessarily have to have been in sales or in tech before, but in order for me, I like to look for that hyper growth kind of mindset. And then I would say for less experienced roles, for more new to career, and particularly for sales, like to see drive, energy, and somebody that demonstrates really good listening skills. I think there's a stereotype that, sales is all about how good you can pitch, but it's really about how well you listen to customers and customer needs if you want to play the long game. I would also say just don't be shy about trying to connect. We had an intern a couple of years ago, an intern group a couple of years ago, where one of the interns sought me out 3 times during their internship to get advice on her project. And honestly, I can't wait to hire her one day.
Absolutely. Christina, you know what I love is the part you said about the listening, right? When I first broke into sales, my mentor taught me a very valuable lesson that I still apply today, where he used to say, we have 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. So I completely agree with you. It's a lot about listening, and people kind of breeze over that when they go into sales, but you're so right. Tiffany, what do you think?
Yeah, so true. I love everything that was said. The 2 ears and 1 mouth. I've heard that too, and use them proportionately. Some great skills I always thought about, like as a sales leader when I'm hiring folks. One is the ability to be able to challenge status quo, because a lot of times you have to compel a customer to make a decision, and they're either making a decision to do something that they've never done before, they're making a decision to switch from one provider to another, or they're making a decision to stop doing it themselves and ask someone to do it for them. And so there are 3 common use cases. And in all 3 of those, you need to challenge them on what's working well and what isn't. And asking that simple of a question doesn't really get you the nuanced answer you need to build something that they're going to want to get excited about and want to go sell internally to the organization as well. So I look for people that are able to challenge in the right way. That's the most important part, in the right way, because people don't want to be attacked. They want you to ask questions and be curious, as Christina was saying, in a way that demonstrates curiosity and also showing your understanding of where they're coming from. So that challenger is the word, that I use in my mind when I think about that. But being a challenger in the right way is super important. And I saw this question come into the chat about this entry-level position, and so the question, just for those that didn't get to see it, is I'm looking for an entry-level sales position. Everyone's asking for a bunch of experience. How do I get my foot in the door? Katie, you mentioned some of those certifications. I would also think about, what is the sales leader looking for?
Mm-hmm.
And they're looking for people that can deliver results for the customers, that are going to deliver results for the business. So know how you can differentiate and show them your capability of doing that. It's something I would add in here for any seller. But then also there are a lot of companies that offer sales academies. It was one of the best assignments I ever had in my career, was running a sales academy, where we hired fresh out of college or 1 to 2 years of experience. We brought them into this incubation center to teach them how to be sellers. Look for those programs. They're fabulous. So I would, check that out too.
That is phenomenal. I just love how nowadays, we have these programs and these initiatives out that just did not exist, 15, 20 years ago. And it's just so great. And I have a question that came in from the audience that I know everyone in the audience is kind of wanting to ask. So I'm glad this person did. Anyone can answer this, ladies. What can candidates do to make their applications or resumes stand out?
I think one of the things that, especially in sales, if you have a sales background, is not just showing your achievement. Let's say, you increased sales or whatever by a certain percentage, but then show the impact that it had. So I increased my sales by 17%. It generated 100 million in revenue. Like, make sure that you're complete in your statements with your successes.
That's great. Yeah. Anyone else?
I'll be super honest on this. I don't look at a lot of resumes. And I think sometimes the resume is going to bias me. So I trust Katie to take care of resumes and to hand me candidates that I'm going to be interviewing. So I just don't spend a lot of time there. I do sometimes poke around LinkedIn, but I don't normally do, much of that either, again, because I don't want to be biased. So here's what I would say. When you get an interview with someone like myself, show me what you're going to show my customers. Talk to me the way that you're going to talk to customers. Have a commanding view of the interview. Ask questions yourself as well. Don't assume that I'm going to ask all the questions. Show me how you've already done all of your homework and your research, like Katie mentioned before. Bring those in, talking points at the right time. Treat the interview like you're treating a sales pitch. Like, that's a great way, for me to get a feel for it.
That is a tremendous answer. Fantastic. I hope everyone's paying attention to that, because that's a good one. Absolutely. Anything you wanted to chime in on, Christine?
Yeah, no, I think they both covered it. I think that, Katie knows best how to screen applications and resumes. I would just say that by the time it comes to me to be interviewed, all of what Tiffany said, but also just show me what you can't put on your LinkedIn profile. There are so many things that I want to tell about myself that I can't put on my LinkedIn profile, or just don't find there's not a place to put it, right? And so take the time to think about the stuff that makes you unique and the stuff that, you think you can bring value to.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. And this one is for all three of you as well. What's something you think most people don't know about tech sales that you think they should?
Take that, Tiffany.
One is people hear technology and they think it's all tech, but a lot of sales is people. Even if it's a digital sale, you are optimizing that digital sale for the person, the buyer that's on the other end of it. So people, I think, is the core to tech sales. And I think it's something that maybe gets lost when you put those two words together. Whenever we say technology, I think sometimes we forget about there's a person that's on the other end of it.
Yeah, my feedback would be similar in that it's about people too, in that it is in some ways a small world, and you can build really amazing relationships with customers, partners, and also your fellow coworkers that are great in their great relationships in their own right, but also truly can snowball your future opportunities and success.
And I would just add, I think sometimes candidates are intimidated or self-eliminate because they see tech and it seems scary. But Christina and Tiffany started someplace. Like, you're going to start somewhere. Just learn about it. You'll learn quickly. You'll adapt. So don't be intimidated. It's relationship based, and you can learn the technology that you need to understand.
Absolutely. That's such a great point that everyone should really keep in mind when they're going into something new that they don't know and they get a little intimidated. It's like, guess what? Everyone had a first day. So if you keep that in mind, it really helps to kind of level you out. Thank you guys so much for that. So I want to take a question from the audience. And before I do this, I wanted to reiterate to the audience, there's a box on the bottom of our Zoom. Rather than the chat box, use the Q&A box. You can put in your question, and I'll be doing this periodically throughout the session. So anything that comes up, just please go on ahead, and remember, you can ask anonymously. So this one was a good one. I'm going to read it exactly how I see it. I love technology and how it redefines how people are connected at the intersection of industries and innovation. How does an experienced candidate with diverse marketing background cross over into the customer-facing role?
You want me to start on this one?
Mm-hmm.
So I would say if you're at the same organization, if you're at one company where you've been able to build your brand, then people will see what you're capable of. And you'll be able to show other things that you've done well as successes as a transferable skill. Because that's what you'd be looking for. You'd be looking for that transferable skill. So if you're at the same organization, I find that would be easier to do. To break into a new organization, you'd want to find someone who, when you're looking through, the job description is asking for a skill set that you have been able to demonstrate in another way. So they might be thinking, oh gosh, I'm only going to look at people who have carried a quota before. And that might be what's in their mind on what they need. But you could say, hey, I've carried a quota. It's not the sales quota. I've carried this other quota. And here's how I've met those metrics and those demands. Or it might say, I need someone who can consult with a customer. Hey, I've consulted with customers, and here's how. So find those transferable skills is what I would say, and show your ability, show how you've been able to demonstrate that ability.
Absolutely. Anyone else have any?
Yeah, I would just say too that, right now we're in a candidates market, right? And so it's also important to think about where you're looking to work and what type of leadership is in position at these companies to support your future growth. Because I can tell you that, here at Equinix, we've got a mix of leadership that sort of built the company and some that are newer, amazing leaders in the business that are open to looking at transferable skills and not having exactly, what exactly on the resume, what the job may require.
And I think, Christina, you touched on something. It is a candidate's market right now. Understand, we're trying to screen you in, not screen you out. So we are truly an advocate for you. We want you to be a successful candidate. So we want you to join Equinix and other companies. I'm sure their recruiting team feels the same way.
That is a really, really great answer. Very encouraging too. Thank you guys so much for that. Let's see here. So, in many industries, the average tenure of sales professionals is less than 2 years. What has led you to stay at Equinix, and what is it about the company that excites you about working in sales?
Boy, 2 years, you would be so impressed if you looked at the average tenure of a seller at Equinix, because it goes far beyond 2 years. We have sellers that are now retiring after 20 years of selling.
Wow.
Great deal of tenure. And I think for me, it goes back to the, how I started up at the beginning. We have this fabulous service that our customers really need. And when you're in sales, you're either talking the customer into what the product or the solution is, which is so hard. It just doesn't feel good when you're trying to educate them on why they need you. Or if they already know that they need something, and you're in this position of financial strength, and you've got this, superior product and service, which is where we are. It's just it feels better when you're talking to those customers. The points are more resonant with them. I think that's what leads to some of the longevity for us at Equinix.
Yeah.
I think this is, related to what Tiffany said, but also related to what I said in the last question, which is, be selective about where you want to sell. If you want to move into sales, be selective about the company that you want to represent. And I think that will directly affect your tenure.
Absolutely. Okay. All right, let's see here. So, Tiffany, how has Equinix supported you in your career journey? And what benefits or programs has Equinix offered you that have contributed to your success?
Wow. This place is really amazing. I truly hope that I have the ability to retire at Equinix. And when I say that out loud to people, what I hear is +1. I'm in the same boat. I hope I get to retire here too. It's an incredible place for development. In development, as it relates to allowing us to take risks and trying out other roles, signing up for stretched assignments that maybe are a little bit more out of our reach. You know, we don't quite have the skills yet for, but people believe in us and they believe in what we're capable of doing in the future. Traditional things like executive education is another thing I've been supported with, or inclusive leadership, you know, journeys in education. We have these tremendous employee connection groups that I'm a part of many of them. You know, I mentioned at the beginning that my wife and I have now been together for 18 years and we have 2 kids, and we have a Pride Connect group. I'm on the women's group. I'm part of our Black Connect group. You know, I join many of these because I have a passion for being an ally, which I know Christina shares deeply. We were just exchanging notes about that this morning and how important it is to build a foundation of allies. So like Equinix has been amazing in developing me as a human being, as well as in developing me as a professional and me as a, you know, community member, which is why I hope I get to retire here.
Again, just goosebumps all over the place. You're great. I love the passion and everything that you're saying. Christina, I'd love to ask the same question of you. How has Equinix supported you in your career journey, and what benefits or programs has Equinix offered that you have contributed to that success?
Yeah, I feel like Tiffany covered it, but I'll give an example of some of the sort of investment in education and that I've been given. Every couple of years we have a program called Archimedes, where globally 20 leaders are picked to come together to solve complex challenges while, you know, bringing them all together for a couple of weeks in California for an amazing growth experience. Tiffany and I actually did Archimedes together at the same time. And to this day, that group of people are still my homies. And it's been really great to see so many of that group go on to such awesome career paths and journeys here at Equinix, but also to have that kind of reach back network as well. So the benefit of that was not only the opportunity to work on a strategic project, to engage directly with other executive leaders, but also to build this community of leaders who I find that I'm able to go to whenever I need advice about anything. That's an example of something that the long list that Tiffany described.
No, phenomenal. Okay.
We should also call out, Tiffany talked about looking at companies that have a sales development program. Equinix actually has one of those, and it's won awards. So if you do come to Equinix and you are getting into sales, you have a support wrapper around you that's award-winning and we think exceptional.
Completely. You know, the other thing too I didn't mention that I know we're all thinking is we have fabulous customers. Like, we have some of the most reputable global brands on the planet. You know, companies that we need in our daily lives, like Netflix and Microsoft and some of the others I mentioned before. So we just have excellent customers you get to learn and grow with that are both technologically compatible to us, but probably also, more important, culturally compatible to us. You know, they care about the same kinds of causes that we care about, and they care about their people in the same way too. So that makes it extra fun to be in sales when you have fabulous customers.
Love it. Oh, absolutely love it. All right. So we do have quite a few questions in the Q&A box loading up. So I wanted to get some kind of final words in before we start to kind of go off, off a little bit with some random questions here. So any other reasons why you would recommend a career in technology, or any final pieces of advice for those who are considering a career change?
Yeah, I would just say, you won't regret it. And if you were to change your mind, sales roles build skills that are so easily transferable in so many professions, skills in communications, in listening, in teamwork. And for me, at least, being in sales really helped build confidence.
Absolutely agreed.
add, like, if you are driven to make an impact, this is a spot where you can make an impact and it's quantifiable. So if that's one of those things that enriches your soul, like it does, that enriches my soul, making an impact, this is a great spot for that.
Yeah, and I think if you're someone that thrives on a fast-paced environment and wants collaboration, I mean, sales is partnerships, it's collaboration, it's that team effort. So if that's something that you seek, I think it's perfect to be in technology because it's cutting edge, fast-paced, as well as sales where you have that deep partnership.
Absolutely agreed. I can definitely concur with all three points made there. So you guys definitely have stimulated our audience to get really involved, and we have some really good questions here. So just for anyone to answer, any number of you can answer as well. Let me know what you guys think. The first one, and I'm curious about this too. What does a normal day in the life look like?
For an individual contributor or a direct seller, it looks something like how it should look or how it does look. I'm going to kind of add a little bit into this. Probably looks a lot like check your email first. And I think that's for almost anyone in business. But should it be your email first? I always caution people that it probably shouldn't be, because if you do your email first, then it might dictate your day, rather than check what you had scheduled for your day and what were your priorities and outcomes and goals for the day. I suggest that first, although I'm a little guilty myself of getting an email too early sometimes. But then after that, there's an outreach program that you're doing with your customers. So who do I need to talk to today? Because there's a solution that's on the table that I want to advance, and balance that. And I really add this part in, balance that with who do I need to talk to today to build a solution for tomorrow? Because if those two things aren't balanced, you might find you are crushing it and the month is over and you've hit your quota and you got nothing in the pipeline when you start over on the first of the next month. So really balance your time with your outreach on managing today's funnel and managing tomorrow's funnel. And then, when I say the word funnel, there are all kinds of fabulous tools, different organizations to use. But that's one of the first things that I want to look at is what's happening in the funnel and what's progressed and what looks different today and how can I move things from one stage to the next. And then there's also usually good coaching outreach. Like if I haven't talked to my leader by now, then I'm going to reach out to my leader, mid-ish day and talk about challenges that I'm having and ways that I need their help. And then if you're in a complex technical environment like we are at Equinix, there's usually one-ish time a week where you're bringing your whole support team together, your engineer and your architect and your commercial solutions folks, to talk about what's happening with each of these customers. So if you think about what does your day look like, it's a lot of managing what's coming in at you and being deliberate about what you're going out with, and then talking to lots of customers and talking to your team that helps you support these customers so that you're doing it together in a consistent way.
Absolutely. Anyone else want to chime in on the individual contributor's day in the life, so to speak?
Yeah, I would just add to that, and Tiffany brought this up earlier, take the time to understand the partners and all of the pieces that make everything work, and make sure that you're planning your week rather than day, so that you're at least connecting and learning with that piece that's so critical to success in sales, in tech sales.
Absolutely agreed. Fantastic. All right. Next question. This one is okay. And I would like all three of you to answer this one because this is a really good one. Have you faced bias in your tech career? And if so, how have you overcome it?
Why don't you go first on this one?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, at the end of the day, the reality is that who you work for matters as much as what you're capable of, right? And so making sure that you're, being selective about where you want to work, that you're going to work for in an inclusive environment that makes an inclusive culture and environment a priority, but also that your immediate manager is looking out for opportunities to combat bias every day.
I would definitely echo that. As you're seeing on the background with Christina and me, we have I'm safe, I belong, I matter. That's actually a living, breathing statement at Equinix, and there's some companies that don't feel that way. So I think, as Christina said, understand the company, who you'd be working with, and who you're reporting to, and making sure that they're an advocate and an ally for you. And just having those relationships that are genuine and authentic.
Yep, I think you both covered that very well, have that group of allies.
All right, let's see here. Okay. As a seasoned salesperson from the consumer hardware technology industry with transferable soft and hard skills, looking to pivot from hardware to SaaS, what is a good role to apply for to transition? For example, account executive, business development, or customer success?
Well, those are three different roles. Like, which of those jobs do you want to do? What kind of impact do you want to make? An account executive, when I compare these three, is probably someone who's managing more customer relationships in a sales environment. Biz dev is someone who's trying to help create lead flow. Customer success is post sales. So I guess it depends on, where you want to make that impact. So to the question of like, how do I demonstrate the relatability to my skills from hardware to SaaS? I mean, I think about especially when you're talking about consumer hardware technology, that typically sits on the other end of any SaaS application that's out there anyway. So what you're showing in that case is you understand the customer's customer, because those are the people that are using these consumer hardware technologies. So being able to demonstrate knowing the customer's customer, once you figure out which of those three roles you're interested in, that's where I would focus.
Absolutely. Anybody else? I wouldn't be that either. So I don't know.
I'm actually curious how Katie would respond to that for somebody that's applied for all the roles. How do you handle that?
Yeah, when we have someone that does that, the conversation is we need to narrow the focus, because as Tiffany said, they're all different. So it's not like they're similar. And I know sometimes when candidates are, excited to join a company and just want to be in technology sales, they do tend to apply for several different positions. So again, understand the position, take the time and figure out what components of it resonate with you, and then have more of a targeted search on that and be able to speak clearly. And I know all three of us have said that, be able to speak clearly to how your experience will translate over.
Absolutely. Great answer there. Okay, let's keep them on going. Okay, this is interesting. Okay, when your primary goal is to increase your salary, what resources outside of Glassdoor do you recommend for researching salaries, and how much can you ask for? Or should I say how much you can ask for?
So one, there are states, i.e. Colorado, that have salary transparency laws. This is going to be more of a trend. New York is soon to follow. And then, like I said, we'll see it more and more. So that's one. Glassdoor has it. The one thing that I will say is most of the websites that people go out to try to get a sense of what the salary range is for, it's candidates or employees that have put it in there, but it's not a complete or necessarily an accurate view, because it also depends. Someone in the Bay Area may be making a different salary than someone that's in Boise, Idaho. So it doesn't take in a lot of variables. Your best resource is to have a very open, candid, transparent conversation with the recruiter and find out what the salary range is. Be ready with your salary expectations, what you think it should be. And then also understand that all positions have a budget. So, if you see a high end of the range, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's what the offer would be. So again, I think it's good to have that knowledge from the websites, but I think having very transparent conversations with your recruiter is one of the best ways.
Anyone have anything to piggyback on that one? Cool stuff. That was very concise. Thank you very much, Katie. All right, so I have one that is so interesting to me. I'm very curious to hear how this gets answered. Is an experienced salesperson in his or her 50s considered too old to interview for an acquisition sales role? Have you experienced age bias in technology sales?
I think we're all shaking our head. Absolutely not.
Answer is no. Yeah. Apply.
Absolutely not. And you know, I wouldn't, when I think of that, I think of how much fabulous experience, you know, people are probably bringing, life experience, relationship experience, cultural experience. Absolutely not.
Yeah, and their relationships and networks, you know, they're very robust at that point. So agree, it's a value add.
That is great. That is such a great answer. Excellent. I was hoping you guys would say that one. I knew you would. All righty, we're almost done with the questions. Let me see here. Who makes the decision? The hiring manager or the interview panel who conducted interviews with potential employees?
You know, I would say, again, Katie and Christina, we're all on so many interview panels. We probably have similar thoughts on this, but I think that the reason you do interview panels is to get a well-rounded perspective of a candidate. And I know as a hiring manager, I value the input of that interview panel very highly. So I want to hear what they have exposed or not exposed and what they've learned or not learned and what else we need to test on. So it's really valuable to get all of that feedback. But I think at the end of the day, the hiring manager is the one that's making the decision with the really close collaboration and very valuable input from the interview panel. And, you know, also realize that as a hiring manager, when we're hiring folks, we're hiring them with durability. These people are going to outlast us in leadership roles and really in any role. If you think about how frequently people change jobs and roles and careers right now, we're making decisions, you know, that another manager is going to end up with over time. You know, so we're thinking about the full collaboration of that panel. I don't know, Christina and Katie, what would you add?
I completely agree. And the panel is so critical. It's an excellent case for why diversity matters. I know personally that I've been ready to hire somebody where a panel has said, no, here's why, right? And I missed it, right? And so it's really important that, you know, so we work really hard to have diverse panels.
And I would add, on the panel, we typically have people that you would be partnering with. These are key stakeholders. And so you've already, through your interview process, established some level of relationship with them. And so, as Tiffany said, you know, the panel is usually somebody that's going to be in your day-to-day life, in your day-to-day job, also supporting you in your success. So I think it's important to be able to connect with them as easily as you do with the hiring manager.
Mm-hmm. Great. Thank you so much for that one. And let's see here. I work in science where our products are shared freely with the public. I have a lot of experience teaching people how to use our products and presenting our results to varied audiences. What I don't have is anything that can be translated to dollars, nothing like sales levels or improvements that can be measured in dollars. What can I do to be considered when applying for something like solution engineer?
Christina?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I'm actually really curious what Katie would say, but I guess I'm thinking about putting myself in this person's shoes and trying to figure out how I can get on the phone with somebody. Like, just how can I, through the process, find another solution engineer to talk to or to find an advocate somehow. That's what I'm thinking about.
And I think sometimes when you hear technology sales, you're thinking of only quota bearing positions, you know, based on what the person shared. we have a sales enablement team where, they're teaching and supporting. And so there's other positions where you would be in technology sales, just not necessarily quota bearing.
That makes sense. Definitely makes sense. Okay, so that'll kind of conclude our questions here. But I had a question for you guys, and I would like all three to answer if applicable. Is there an article, book, or podcast that has impacted the way you think about your career that you would recommend to our audience?
I do a lot of reading and I do listen to a lot of podcasts. Here's what I would say about a career, because career is a big word. Early on in my, career, I thought it was all about like climbing a ladder and you just take the next step and the next step and the next step. And fortunately, I learned early on, it's more like climbing a mountain, or rock climbing, where you have to think about going next to you and diagonal and down and around, to gain these experiences. So with that in mind, a recent book that I just read and has nothing to do with career, but it's resonant for me in my career, is Glennon Doyle's book, Untamed. I know a lot of folks at Equinix are reading this. We had Glennon Doyle and her wife, Abby Wambach, come and speak at our Connect this year. It was absolutely incredible. And I'd never heard of either of them before that. And now I'm deep in their podcast and, I've been reading these books. And the one point in it that I'm going to say resonates for me, so many good things in that book, but the one that has me thinking about is Glennon Doyle talks about, how do you feel inside? Do you feel warm or do you feel cold? So I'm thinking about roles or career moves. Does it feel warm or does it feel cold to me? And trusting that I know that now that I've asked all the questions about the role and leading into the warmth and learning more about the cold. It's a different way to think about, career. It's not something I'd ever thought about in my past, but since I read that, I've been trying to use that more as it relates to roles and career journey.
I love that. Oh my.
There's so many books. It's hard to pick one. I think what resonates with me right now is one that I read recently by Adam Grant called Think Again. And for those of you that know him, he's a really interesting guy, but he's an organizational psychologist who specializes really in understanding workplace dynamics. And so in this increasingly sort of polarized world that we live in, there was really practical advice on how to challenge your own biases and really apply an open mind. So that's a good one that I would recommend, especially as a leader.
Fantastic. All right. So we are nearing the end of our time together, and this has been just absolutely tremendous here. Guys, I wanted to thank you so much for being a part of this. For our audience, I know they got so much out of this. Katie, thank you so much. You've just been so great with your thorough answers. Christina, really chiming in and giving us that perspective from your end. And Tiffany, your passion and the way that you speak just really emanates, and really sticks with me. So this has been a tremendous session.